So guys, the first step of how we're going to get you to hit draws for the rest of your life is we need to understand the vision of creating a club face that is slightly close to the path, and the path is inside out, so going right of the target, the right-handed golfer. So the first thing we're going to look at is the grip. How we're going to hold the club is going to dictate a lot what happens with the club face, and also it's going to have an effect on the path. So first thing we're going to look at is having a strong left-hand grip. Going to look at creating a 3-knuckle display on the left hand here, so you're holding from the front and you can see then 1, 2, 3 without having to tilt your head over. What this does is it means that the club face is always going to have a tendency just to close up, no problem at all. So once that's done and you've got your left hand on top, we're just going to align the right hand to it. So your right hand's going to come down, and you'll see here, you'll see the creases on my hands are aligned to each other, and they're also up towards my right ear. What that does when we put the club down is it just makes it a little bit easier for us to have a slight forward press. And the forward press, it de-lofts the club a bit, but mostly it helps us get into that inside out path from the get-go. So once you've got your grip and you've taken your position here, the next sort of view that I'm looking for you guys to have from here is that your left hip comes underneath your left heel. So creating a little bit of a tilt. Again, if we stand a bit this way here, it creates that outside in tendency. So here, nicely on that left side. And you'll notice if you spin around here this way, you'll see that your armpits, your knees and your feet are kind of in line with each other. So you're a little bit more upright than a traditional sort of stance where you've got a little bit too much over tilt. So what this does, by setting up like this, you'll feel that the weight is more in the middle of your feet, slightly to the heels, slightly more upright. Hands are forward with a strong grip, and then you're ready to get yourself started for the draw. Reference point from the front that I really want to make sure that you add into that is your head. The head dictates a lot of the movement, and you'll see from here that my right eye is more perched over the ball, not this way here. This later on pays huge dividends when we're trying to get through the ball and create the right hitting sequence to get that draw shot. So once the setup's done, the next most important thing is that we start off the swing in a way that's going to build power, but also set the alignment of the swing up to get the correct path and to get the right club face. So to do that, I want you to first of all understand the needs. We're trying to create width, space, and use our body in a way that's much more rotation based, so that we're not swinging from the arms and axing from the top. We've got a nice sequence of movements, the weight's being moved correctly, and we get the club in the right spot. So the first move, we're focusing on a swing that's going to be up to about hip height. So if you imagine you've got yourself set up, just like we've covered in the last step, and you're set up in position, what we're looking to move first away from the ball is that the left shoulder is going to come towards the chin, and at the same time the right hip is going to go back. What this will do is it creates a lot of space between your hands and the golf ball. We're not going to go out, we're just going to go left shoulder underneath the chin, right hip back. And you'll notice that my weight hasn't slided, I haven't shifted, I've rotated as if I'm on skis, and the weight's going to go up the left ski, down the right ski. And if you look here from the side, this is where you can start to see the alignment of the swing taking place. So as your left shoulder is going nicely back here, so you're making your turn, and the weight's going into this right hip and right heel, you'll notice that the club is slightly toed down. There's a slightly feeling like a little bit of a bowed wrist. If I just spin this way as well, you'll see from here, the target line would be here. This would be a neutral plane. We're actually just going to take that 5 degrees in. And that happens naturally when that left shoulder and right hip open up. That puts us into that position. So already we've kind of got the club in a position whereby if we were just to come through from there, that would give us already our inside out path. So we've got kind of half the job of the draw done. And we've got that slight feeling of bowed wrist going on that first move. And the result is that the club face is here, okay? So most important thing, we start with the turn, left shoulder, right hip, slight bowing of the wrist, everything slightly inside, and then you've got your first move. Strong arms, good weight distribution. And the deeper that you can get, the better. The more power that you're going to feel is in that move. If you do this and you're up and out of it here, yes, you'll have the club in the right place. You won't see the benefit of the movement in terms of distance. So the deeper that you can squeeze this in, the lower that shoulder can get, the more back this hip can get, and the stronger your arms become. That's when you'll start to maximize the position. And it's not just about being in the right spot, it's about winning in that position as well and getting the most out of every single part of the movement. So the third part of this journey, we're going to focus on how to move through impact. So we're only taking the club back to our sort of hip height. We call that the first move. Now we're actually going to learn from that position how to swing through. And the reason being is that there's no point going further back if you don't know how to get yourself through. And if you know how to get through from the short swing with no power, it's a lot easier to learn it. So let's just put ourselves on the first move. So we've taken our swing. Our club is back to here. We've got that nice 5 degrees inside out position. And from here now, what we're looking to do is learn the sequence of how to initiate that movement towards the ball. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to load up our left toe, our front toe. So if you'll set yourself up over on this position here and you've got yourself on your first move and you're in here, you'll notice the weight is on my left toe and on my right heel. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift in towards my left toe. And it's a key move, and I'll show you from this side why, is that once the club's here and I shift into the toe, I've actually brought the club towards the ball but without changing its alignment. And we've still got that nice slightly inside out alignment. The next step from there is once I've shifted in there, I know the club's coming from inside. I can then look to push my right shoulder down, which will open up my left side. My hip will push out the way. And I've got the club coming right into the ball on that nice inside out path. My wrist is still maintained that bow. And then all that happens then is my right arm goes from bent to extended, feeling like I'm making a long divot. The club will always come around with you, but you're not trying to take your hands off their course. You're just trying to go from here whilst your body's opening, extending the arms. And we're looking at stopping around this position here, again about hip height. The sort of view from this side would be that you'd be from here, you're into that left side there. You'll notice as you then start to push that right shoulder through, your weight will transfer onto that left heel, your body will open, your head will be naturally moving and your right arm will extend through. And you'll see then from there, everything's long, your body's open as much as you can. And we talked about winning in certain positions. To really win this position, you've got to feel like you're going from as much of your weight into your right heel, much into your left toe, and then as hard as you can into that left heel as a finishing point. And that your right arm is extending as if you're trying to hit the hardest punch that you can. That's what's going to create, I guess, the best deliverance of your power, whilst keeping the right path. Your wrist is still in that little bowed feeling, so you've got yourself the club face slightly close to the path, and then you're ready then to start learning how to compress that through. So we'll just get a few moves for you now so you can see in motion. You see yourself from here, there, into there, and through. And if you see that from the front side as well, you set up, in position, into there, and then through. The idea of this is that you would start off and you'd hit it 20, 30, 40, 50 yards, seeing the ball take off down that right side, looking like it's trying to draw back a bit, then you know you're getting it. The good thing is that you've got a great backswing and you know how to deliver the club. So when we build that backswing up, there's no surprises. What do I do now? How do I start the downswing? You've got it already covered. So the fourth step in the picture of all of this now, if we just have a quick recap, we've done setup, first move, delivering the club through impact. The next phase is going into the completion of the backswing. And this is where you're going to feel the power. You're going to feel in a slightly different body position probably to what you would normally do, but you're in one that has a lot of power, a lot of tension, but also it's got the alignment for the draw in it from the get-go. So if we just go back to that first point on the backswing, where we were at 5 degrees in, left shoulder's down, we're nice and deep, hips pushed back, little bow in the wrist. All we're looking to do is to carry on to push from this side here, from this shoulder, and slightly hinge the wrists up to a point where you see that your thumb is up and you've got this nice bow action here. So what the bowing does, not only for the club face, but also it squeezes your arms together. A flying right arm leads to over the top positions. So if you can counter that and have them nice and tight and get the right shaft angle, then you're set up. So if you move through the position in the first move all the way up to the backswing and you're in here, what you'll notice is that my arms are parallel to my shoulders. So I've got a really good match and feeling between those two, my arms and my shoulder. And then I'm at the top here, my wrists are fully loaded. My right arm has got a nice bend in it, not over bent, it's got structure. And I think one of the most overlooked parts of a golf swing is where the right arm is. If your right arm gets behind you this way, at some point it's got to come in front. What we want to try and do is keep that in front of the seam line on the shirt the whole way through here, and then we know as long as our body is just going to rotate and come through, bang, the arms are in front, and that's more for delivering all of that power that you're building up. So a little bit of extension of the first move, you maintain the bow, you maintain the angles that you're working on, and you just add in a little bit of wrist hinge, bowing at the top, and then you've got that reference point. Your hands are not up here, they're nicely in line and parallel to your shoulders. And then the next thing then is again just going through the ball from there. So backswing's complete, you know how to move through the ball. The next stage is about finishing off the swing. It's important that you note that anything after here, which is what we practice moving through the ball, it's all for safely de-accelerating the club. If we didn't slow the club down, it would just keep spinning around at huge rate and it'd be out of control. What we need to do is safely and controlled slow down the club. We've accelerated it, and then we're going to come to a nice controlled stop. And the reason being is we want to have balance so that we can start the swing and finish the swing the same each time. If we start the same and finish the same, we've got to hope that through the ball will be consistent. So what you see these days, sort of quite common, you see it in a player like a Tommy Fleetwood, someone who holds their follow through off, is they're stopping quite short. It's not necessary, but I'm going to give you a few things that I want you to look for. So in your backswing, once you're set up like this and you're into position here, you've moved through, extended. Once you get to here, the next thing is that you keep on turning, and then at some point you stop. You can go longer, but the main thing is that you feel like you've got the control in the feet correct. You're finishing well in your left heel, you're well onto your right toe, and you have a little bit of tilt left in your body. As soon as you come this way here, that's when you start to bring in the chance for a miss to the left. If you've done this part properly, you'll notice your right shoulder's always lower than your left, and then your arms are going to get quite long. They can relax after that, but I want to see from hip height to hip height that you feel that you've got quite a lot of width coming through the impact area there. So keys are having good balance, making sure you're still maintaining a bit of tilt in the body, and especially having that right side shoulder lower for you, and then you should be good to go on that one. So we've covered hitting the draw with the iron. Now we're going to look at how to do that with the driver. And it's important to note that whilst the swing is the same, there are a couple of tweaks that we need to make, namely because we've got the ball on a higher tee and we're trying to hit it into the air, whereas on an iron we're creating that nice descending blow. So if you take your driver and you get yourself set up, there's a first key difference is in our weight position. So once you're into grip is exactly the same, eye position's the same, you're going to see the ball, as we know, on that front foot. We're just going to accentuate the tilt a little bit, so you're going to add that pushing from the lower body across, leaving the head where it is, to try and create an additional 5 degrees of tilt. And you'll notice that my sternum is almost exactly I'd say 2 balls in from my right foot. That's a key point there. What this is going to do, that's going to ensure that our attack angle is heading towards the positive note, so we can get the most launch out of the ball. Coming from this side, we don't have any changes to the position of our armpits relative to our knees and feet. They're still going to run through the middle into the position there. And all we're going to do now to maintain everything is understand that this position we're on here is now our axis. So our spine, we're going to tilt around that. We're not going to have any dipping or any changes off that. We're going to work exclusively around that same position. And if you want to get consistent, this is the key feel you need to do, is feel like you have a center, an axis, and you move around that. You notice from when I take that from the front here into position, we've got ourselves set up like this here. I'm not adding to the tilt as I go back or losing the tilt. I'm keeping myself in that same line and I'm moving around that axis there. So you see I'm maintaining the same spine angle. As I come down from there, the next part for that is how we're going to transition into the ball, and we're going to cover that on the next step. So transitioning on the driver, you have to appreciate the difference. On an iron, we're transferring in a way that we're going to hit down, collect the ball from the floor. The ball's already in the air on the T-peg on the driver, so we're trying to maintain that positive attack angle. The difference is that if you take yourself on the backswing on the driver and you're up here at the top, we don't want to necessarily load down into the ball. That's not going to help us. What we're going to try and do is take our axis that we've created on the driver and just laterally shift it across just a little bit until you feel that the base of this line here, which is where your spine is more lined up towards the ball. By doing that, what you'll see that you're doing is you're not coming out of position and losing power. You're just recentering your relationship with the ball so that then when we come down, we can still take that inside out path. So the key thing is that you feel like your transition is just slightly more lateral, it's horizontal, it's not down into the left toe, it's just across into the left toe. So you're in position here, you got yourself set up, and you're just in there, that slight little across movement, you feel yourself more into the outside of your left toe area rather than into the left toe like in the irons. And then once you're in here then you start the same sequence. You rotate into that left heel, your right arm goes through and extends, and then you're up into the finish, and the upward attack angle, the sweeping motion, that'll already be in there from what you've done in the transition and at your setup. And if you just have a little look from this position here, you can see here's your position, you've got that nice backswing. You go in there and you see in that recentering, your hands aren't moving. We're just not going down. We don't want that attack angle. We're just centering back across, opening up, right arm extends, and the club will be traveling slightly to the right. We're going to feel like the club's traveling slightly towards the right, the target line, to help us send and then bend it back onto target. So really important step that we're going to dedicate this section to is moving from impact post, and it's the direction of your club after impact. The idea that we're going to give this its own step is just the importance that you need to understand how things are going to be effective. So because we're hopefully ascending on our strike to the ball, we're going to try and feel like our club is actually exiting right of the target line, like we mentioned in the previous step. So if you imagine here's your target line in this direction, we want to feel that as your arm's extending, you just feel like your club's pushing slightly right of that line. So your club's almost getting further away from you post-impact. As your shoulders are turning then, that's what brings it around and looks like it comes across the target. But actually from like the ball to the next, I'd say 1.5 feet of the swing, that's all coming from you feeling like you're pushing down towards the right. So a nice analogy of that is if this is a clock face and you've got 12 here, 6 here, 3 and 9. We know the club's coming in from 4 already, it's already working down that line, but we're going to make sure that we carry on going through to 10. and that means that we've got the best chance of sending the ball down the right side, and then also the relationship between face and path should be the one that brings it back to the left side. At no point in this have we talked about rolling the club face, flipping the hands over. Those methods require huge amounts of timing and a lot of practice. We're talking about the whole time creating these alignments where you've got the club face is already set up slightly close to your path. We've got the swing plane in the correct line, and we're keeping it from the get-go about 5 degrees inside, bringing it up, and then learning how to shift and extend to get everything working out towards the right there. So the final step of making sure that your hit draws for the rest of your life is putting it to the test on the golf course. Driving range is one thing, it's doing it out in the field. That's what's going to give you the real, not the confidence, you can earn that on the range, but the trust that you can do it. And trust is not hoping or believing, it's knowing that you can do it. And you want to get yourself out there, find an open space on the course where there's a bit of time, and set yourself up on a hole, and the goal is to try and repeat yourself 3 times. So trying to hit that ball that starts down the right and then draws back. We're lucky here at Yas, we've got so many holes where we've got water on the right and it makes you want to draw it back to the left, but find the place at your golf course where you can say to yourself, if I can do it here, I can do it anywhere. And that's what we're looking for you to do, is to leave this course knowing exactly that you've got yourself in a position where you can hit draws on the course. You know how to do it. You can go back through the steps if you lose it and rebuild it again to make sure that you hit those draws for the rest of your life. I'd put yourself on a tee box, make yourself swing towards the water, and using your understanding of the bowing the wrist and the plane to get yourself and transferring through the ball to make sure that you show yourself that it is what you can do, it's achievable. And then you'll be able to do it in front of your buddies and have a great time on the golf course.